So what I want to try to do, and do very quickly, is follow up on that excellent summary with which I have most sympathy, and try to talk about a question. I don't remember did I give this a title? Yeah. So what I really wanted to do is, so how do you motivate? And what we were hearing about was some game-changing actions, but we're trying to do it in an era of spin and confusion. You just go out on the street and you ask the average person, and they believe that this needs to be done, but they're not sure when, and they think it's really expensive, and they've heard all these things about, but aren't the scientists exaggerating? And then, so all of this kind of stuff has a major impact on the political will to have the actions which can lead to game change. So I want to spend my 20 minutes or so talking about that. So first of all, we'll start out, get everybody on the same page. Is the world warming? Yes, it's according to the IPCC, it's unequivocal. And there is the last 120 some odd years of it. However, when I testified to the U.S. Congress about 2 years ago on this, Congressman Rohrabacher from Orange County had, yes, I know, you can just, there are some people who you don't even have to tell a joke. Just mention the name and you get a laugh. He's one of them, Michael Crichton, and then there's other famous people, all these paper publishing climate scientists who know everything. People like Professors Glenn Beck and Rush Limbaugh and George Will. I mean, well, in any case, he said, isn't greenhouse gases increasing since 1998? Yes, sir. Isn't that trapping heat? Yes. It hasn't warmed? I said, no, it's been pinned at the top. Therefore, I falsified global warming. No, you haven't. And he could not hear that. So I just gave him another example. I said, well, this is what we call in statistics cherry picking. Go to the endpoints that fit your preconception. I said, so let me cherry pick for you. How about 1992 to 2002? My God, going to hell in a handbasket. Or it's just noise. Very fast, slow, and now we're fluctuating back up again. That's what we call interdecadal variability. It's about as large to slightly larger than what you expect from global warming. It's in all the models. It's in all the theories. It's well known. And yet it has been absolutely amazingly abused as an example of falsifying global warming when it doesn't do anything of the sort. In fact, yes, Senator Inhofe and his grandchildren, which I view this as child abuse because it's miseducating children, built an igloo in the snowstorm in Washington, which they called the Al Gore Global Warming House, and the media dutifully covered it. They forgot to mention it occurred in January, which is the warmest January we've ever recorded. And that no more proves global warming than one snowstorm disproves it. It's all noise. Now, we're just down the street from the baseball park, and out there I noticed Willie Mays, famous baseball player. And the way I try to explain it is that figuring out whether one snowstorm or even a decade falsifies or validates is the same thing as trying to figure out Willie Mays' lifetime batting average by how he did in the summer of 1958. It's a sampling error. It is not science. It is bad science. Why is the media even giving these guys any airtime? And that's part of the problem. They say, oh, we have to put on the other side. I said, when they want to argue about whether it is justified to spend what it costs to get on the supply curve that he showed us at the end, that's legitimate where one opinion is as good as another. But when they're arguing that 10 years of no change disproves global warming, they don't belong in the air because it's scientific nonsense. And that's not opinion. And we have a very deeply broken system, which I don't have too much time to go into. Anyhow, this is a picture I probably got, I don't know, long time ago. Not much has changed, right? People seem drawn to us. We don't have any problem manning the booth. And then this was very recent. This I thought it was kind of cute, And the problem is that most members of Congress do look over their shoulder not to get vetoed by public constituencies, and therefore the opinion polls matter. But when the opinion polls are formed on the basis of information that people get, where various claimants of truth are not sorted out according to their credibility, how can people not be confused? And that's the spin and confusion I was talking about, because to gain change, you really have to have the public on board, giving some courage to those rare birds, the honest politician, not always an oxymoron. So therefore, this framing that we have to deal with is a very serious impediment to trying to get what engineers, like we were both trained in, say, oh, but this system's obvious. Look, this is below zero. Let's just do it. Oh, no, that's an interference with the free market. Well, how is it interference with the free market? Oh, well, because anytime the government steps in, it's going to be worse than nothing. So let me see. The internet invented itself. Nuclear power invented itself. There was no, 22-year funding to get the internet going or the others. These are public-private partnerships. And of course the government is pretty bad at building technology, but it's really good at setting up incentives to get it done. So then you have to sit and differentiate the relative roles and have a reasonably intelligent public debate, which is really something, really easy to do on Fox News. Okay. So have you heard about the climate gate? Aha, and then the other stuff. Now we have IPCC gate. We in the temple of high science made an error. They're right. We didn't just make one error, there were 4 or 5. And it was in my report, not in my chapter. They haven't found one in my chapter yet, but that's because we work really hard to prevent it. In any case, there was some stupid date at which Himalayan glaciers would melt. How that got in there is beyond me. It's inconceivable in any complex system anyone would give a single date on anything. The probability of melting on any given date is 0. So, but what you have is a bell curve with a long tail. All right, it slipped in the cracks. We deserve to get hit for that. And it's a very titillating story. Aha, science has failed. I didn't mind that getting covered. We earned it. And we can, in fact, improve our procedures, and we've figured out how, and we're working on that right now. What I minded was that they didn't bother to tell you the lifetime batting average. So let's see, we have the Competitive Enterprise Institute and other well-funded by the you-know-who oil companies and special interests with disinformation engines working full-time to find errors, and they found 4. I don't know how many conclusions there were in my working group alone, somewhere between 500 and 1,500. That's not a bad batting average, 996. That's 3 times what it takes to make the Baseball Hall of Fame, where you get in with 333. Not good enough. We still want to do better. I didn't mind their covering the story. I minded them pointing it out without mentioning the 99% getting it right rate. Because what that does is it creates the impression, and we can't even trust the scientists. I promise you there are very, very well-paid interests that are using that line every second, including the names I've used. And the media was complicit, not because they're ideological, but because they're using a business model of reporting, right? And that's ratings. They do focus groups, titillation. Hey, titillating, we've got these scientists made a mistake. No, it's a good story. I'm not against it. No complexity. Oh, well, we can't tell them what their baseline was. Too complicated, too many numbers. And then, of course, no anti-patriotism. We can't say America is the historic largest accumulated emitter, because that, all our xenophobes will be unhappy. So we end up in a business model of reporting where we, instead of getting what we used to get out of a fourth estate, which is some digestion of the relative credibility of multiple claims of truth, now what we have is a you better have literate citizens. We have a blogosphere where virtually every blog, including the ones that I enjoy, are spun. And they're read by people who come out of those ideologies. I get really nervous if we're going to sit there, we're going to have the best truth that our ideology can buy. Because when the media gives up its role as trying to be a mediator between the various claims and counterclaims, that when it does the looking up, then it's everybody for themselves. And it takes a lot of time and energy, and most people don't have that time and energy to do it for themselves. And in fact, at the first risk of shameless self-promotion #1 for my latest book, Science as a Contact Sport, the last chapter was not about climate change, really. It was a little bit. And I originally called it, Can Democracy Survive Complexity?